ポケットモンスター覚醒ポケットモンスターブラックホワイト9月18日発売。
15 years ago today, Pokemon released the next big generation for their series in its homeland of Japan. It was a bold take on the formula, going back to only including a collection of 156 new Pokemon to be available from the start. A soft reset of the series in an attempt to mirror the feeling of the first generation. Many people did not like this change, others loved it. This new game quickly became a very divisive topic among longtime returning and new fans alike. Was this the right decision? Only time could really tell. Years passed, the competitive scenes of VGC and TCG began to grow. Something special was being born. Pokemon had always been popular, of course, but it was now having a renaissance. Building a whole new collection of dedicated players, shiny hunters, spectators, just general enjoyers of the series.
Kimiとポケモンが目指す道はどんなものか。
This game eventually got a true sequel, a first for Pokemon, another new frontier. Those games went on to build upon the strong foundation laid by their predecessor. All the while, the first games remained, less remembered, but still happy and content with what they made. And as far as the modern Pokemon series goes, good or bad, these games will always be the thing holding it all up. To me, this is the turning point of the series. When Pokemon finally was ready to step it up a notch and become the absolute juggernaut of a property as we know it today. I'm Shadow Stitch, and I love Pokemon Black and White. These games mean a lot to me. They've brought me back into the series that I love, gave me a healthy hobby to obsess over, allowed me to meet great new friends, and even helped me through some rough patches in my life. It's no exaggeration to say that I would not be the same person today without these games. And that's why I made this channel and play these games for you all to watch, so I can share my love for them with you. The numbers don't matter, the view count doesn't matter, all I care about is that you have fun watching, and maybe you gain some appreciation for these games alongside me. Thank you so much for stopping by, now let's get into it. Hey, how's it going everybody? I'm Shadow Stitch, and I like solo running Pokemon Black and White. So last week I took on the game with the mascot of Pokemon White, Zekrom, and it was definitely a very fun run. Of course, it didn't really struggle too much. What do you expect from a box legendary? But it was still very interesting. It wasn't just an A-press simulator, kind of like Reshiram was. I had to think a little bit more, and I thought that led to a very more interesting run. So, and as we bring in the tier list, we do see I have actually started doing some of my re-ranks, and I rebuilt this tier list and stuff like that to hopefully better represent what it's going to look like in the future, since I did change my settings and stuff like that, and my game is running a lot faster and smoother now, which is very cool. So don't worry, all the Pokemon tier do have videos on the channel, and they will all eventually get re-ranks as well. But if you're interested in seeing any of them perform, there is a video for each one of them on the channel, and there's a playlist link down below at the end of the video and on that little iCard thing that popped up, so go check that out. But stick around, because today we are going to be wrapping up this little trio of dragons with Kyurem. So this Pokemon is really cool. So first off, of course, Reshiram and Zekrom kind of represent the concepts of yin and yang, whereas Kyurem represents the concept of Wuji, which is kind of like an absence, a balance of the two, which is very cool. And I really like that design, and that's why these guys are referred to as the Tau Trio. Yeah, they actually do have a name, so which is pretty cool. Also, something really cool about Kyurem is it kind of bucks the trend of, you know, the third legendary in the trio, right? Where it's usually stronger. Think of like, you know, like Giratina is a little bit stronger than the other two, and you know, of course, it had an alternate form and stuff. Or like Rayquaza stronger than Kyogre and Groudon. Kyurem is actually a little bit weaker than Reshiram and Zekrom, which is very interesting because it represents, like, it's supposed to be the husk left over whenever the two dragons separated back in the day, which is very cool. I'm still holding out hope that maybe someday that we will get a Pokemon Legends Unova, and that would be the perfect story to give us. Come on, give it, just let us see what the original dragon was and stuff, and I'm still holding out hope. I love Unova. I'm just hoping that they don't ruin the game. But yeah, there's that. But yeah, Kyurem is an awesome Pokemon. It's also really good competitively as well, especially in later generations once it picked up some really cool moves, like of course getting Roost for recovery is great, but also Freeze Dry, which is an absolutely broken move, is awesome. So this Pokemon, really cool. I really enjoy it, and I think it's going to actually do very well in this game. So you see the rules on screen. I'm gonna stop yapping. We're gonna get into it and see how Kyurem does in Pokemon Black. As we're getting into the run here, let's go ahead and break down what we're working with. So, Kyurem is a very interesting Pokemon, whereas Reshiram and Zekrom, they, you know, one lean more physical, one lean more special. Kyurem kind of splits the difference between the two with 130 in both offenses. Very interesting. It also has a massive 125 base HP, significantly higher than the others, which is pretty cool, but only 90 in both of its defenses, which is far from bad. Also, something pretty interesting is it does have a 95 base speed, which is a little bit faster than the other two dragons. Probably it's not going to come into play too much, if at all, in this run, but it's kind of a neat little difference that I noticed. Dragon and Ice typing, I believe this is the first time that we've had that in the series, which is pretty sweet. Very interesting typing. Always cool whenever, you know, two opposing typings meet up together, and that's just really cool. However, unlike Reshiram and Zekrom, which got their own special versions of Mold Breaker in Turbo Blaze and Terravolt, we're just kind of stuck with Pressure, which, I mean, is not like a terrible ability, but it's more or less just kind of useless. It's kind of like the generic legendary ability. It just doesn't really serve too much of a purpose. It doubles the amount of PP an opponent uses. Not really going to come into play too much at all in a solo speedrun challenge, but you know, what you gonna do. As for the move pool, we start off with Icy Wind and Dragon Rage. Very interesting that it goes Icy Wind as opposed to Ice Fang, because, you know, it's right there, and that's what the other two dragons had. But, you know, kind of a neat little change right there. We get to start off with a relatively strong special attack in the early game right here. So, as we make our way through, of course, we're going to get Ancient Power and our Stab Ice Beam at level 22 very early. Dragon Breath, we get our signature move Glaciate, which is pretty much just like a buffed up version of Icy Wind. I don't know if we're going to end up using that you know, late into the run. And we actually get Dragon Pulse at level 57, which is actually later than the other 2 dragons. Very interesting. As for the TM side of things, we got, you know, some decent coverage options like Shadow Ball, Shadow Claw, Focused Blast, Flash Cannon, Return. If we want to go onto the physical side of things, pretty neat. And overall, it gets pretty much everything that you'd kind of expect from a dragon type like this. So, as we are wrapping up with N, once again, we have Dragon Rage in the early game. So, there are 11 mandatory Pokemon between this end fight and the gym leader, so all we have to do is knock out one of them with Icy Wind, and I chose to do that with N's Purloin once again, so easy peasy. So let's go ahead, skip pretty much everything. Bianca, Cheren, no problem. Gym trainers, of course, very easy. We just click Dragon Rage through them all, and let's face off with our first gym leader. Of course, we took Snivy, so we're facing off with Chili. He's not going to be a problem. We just click 2 Dragon Rages, and there we go. So I'm going to take this opportunity to say, hey, we are running a modest nature this time around. Like I said earlier, our stats do kind of lean to us maybe being a mixed attacker, but just the way that our move pool and, you know, TM moves and, you know, base powers and stuff match out, I thought that special would definitely be the better one to lean into. So after we get contracted by Fennel, we're going to stop by the Pokemon Center, top off and buy our items, beat up the dudes in the Dream Yard, and head out towards Route 3. So something interesting about Route over here is we do have Icy Wind, so we're actually able to, you know, double hit the mandatory double battle right here and face off with Cheren. So not really anything too interesting, but Cheren's Tepig is the first Pokemon that is not going to be able to be one hit by Dragon Rage because it has 42 HP as opposed to 40 or less as everything else. So nothing else really interesting. In the Wellspring Cave, we get to use Icy Wind again, we catch a couple HM friends, pick up a glitched rare candy, and head into Nacrene City. So you may have noticed this in some other videos, but there is a hidden Ultra Ball right here, and I've been picking that up recently. It's pretty useful. So we're going to go ahead, knock out the nurse, so we have that healing spot set up, and then catch ourselves a Timpole. While I'm searching, I actually run into a free Autono, so yeah, sure, why not? I'll take that. So after catching our Timpole, we deposit our team, go face off with N and all the gym trainers. No problems, of course. So let's go ahead, skip right to facing off with Lenora. Just like all the other dragons, we pretty much just have to two-shot all her Pokemon, so we're just going to go for an Icy Wind into a Dragon Rage right there. Watch how it comes out. 2 Dragon Rages actually don't trigger her Super Potion, so that's pretty cool, so we can just knock her out. Really easy peasy, awesome, good stuff. Let's watch the Plasma Dude steal a skull for some reason and head into Pinwheel Forest. So, in the forest, we're just going to battle the extra Herdier Ranger just for a little bit of experience, cross that beautiful Skyward Bridge, and head into Castelia City. Of course, we don't really need to do anything. We're just going to go straight to the gym. I will actually battle one extra trainer, this guy with the single Sawaddle, because, you know, he actually gives okay experience. And that allows me, after I beat the final trainer, I'm going to learn Ice Beam just in time for Berg. So, you know, that extra experience actually paying off right there, being able to go into our third gym leader here with a very powerful move. So, let's do this. And yeah, with the power of Ice Beam, we can just click that pretty much 3 times and everything gets one shot. Even though we have pretty good special attack, I don't think that Ancient Power was going to be enough. But yeah, we're actually able to get through that fight pretty quickly. And there we go. Let's move out towards Route 4. Bianca is going to be no problem. I am going to stop at that healing house. I'm not going to do Fisherman training today, though, because I can't really get through them pretty quickly. And then Cheren, of course, completely free. So let's head into Nimbasa City. After chasing off the Plasma Goons, we get a bike from some old guy, have a quick chat with Bianca, and then we are going to go straight straight to the park. I don't want to leave N waiting for our date. So, of course, he's not really going to be a problem. Neither are any of the gym trainers. Ice is actually an incredibly powerful offensive tool, and we even have ancient power for the couple of things that actually do resist it, which is pretty cool. So, nothing interesting in the gym. Let's face off with Elisa. What do you know? We're going to click Ice Beam 3 times and everything is going to go down pretty much. So both Amogas are, of course, weak to ice. As if Strika comes out, that actually does live. So I'm going to go for an Icy Wind to slow it down and then just another to knock it out. We do learn Dragon Breath along the way as well, so that's pretty cool. Get our 4th gym badge. Let's head out towards Route 5. No problem with Cheren here. Of course, we're going to beat up a couple of toddlers, and before I head out to Drifil, I'm actually going to battle the Sigilif guy because he gives pretty good experience and some special attack EVs, so I'll take that. Let's head into Drifil City. As usual, we're going to grab that PP up in the trash can and a ether over here in the grass. So Kyurem does kind of have a little bit of a small PP issues right here with Ice Beam only having 10. But overall, that's not too bad. There's plenty of ethers and stuff, and I've learned locations for plenty of stuff, so that's not really going to be a problem. After we beat the plasma guys in the cooler, though, we are going to be able to get the Never Melt Ice. This is going to be our go-to held item for the vast majority of this run, boosting the power of our already very strong Ice-type moves by 20%, so that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and also grab that Expert Belt, head through the gym. No problems, of course, and let's face off with Clay. Clay shouldn't be too many problems. We're going to go for Ice Beam onto the Krokorok. That's obviously going to go down. However, Excadrill is neutral. We're going to go for Icy Wind, and that lowers his speed while he also lowers ours, so we don't have to worry about that at all. Knock him out with another Ice Beam, as well as the Palpitoad. Easy peasy. You love to see it. Icy Wind still being useful, not just for just having a move with some extra PP. So let's grab our Max Repels and Hyper Potions, take care of Bianca on our way out of town. She's a little bit annoying just because Musharna doesn't drop to a single Ice Beam, but other than that, not really any issue, and we can head towards Chargestone Cave. Of course, the Gauntlet's not going to be a problem, but we do have to face off with N at the very end of it. We do have to deal with Sturdy from Boulder because we don't have that fancy ability. However, I'm going to also learn Slash over Icy Wind. It has served its purpose, and us having a physical move will actually come in handy later on. So after we knock out the rest of his Pokemon, we're going to head into Mistralton City. No problems. We just grab a PP up on our way towards the tower, clear out the Fat Fish Nurse for a nice heal, and meet up with Skyla at the top. At the top of the tower, we can ring that bell and send Skyla back to the gym, and it also lets me say, hey, thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching this video. If you haven't already, maybe consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. Funny internet number going up makes me feel good, and definitely really enjoying it right here. Of course, this video, it's kind of like a mini tribute to Generation 5 as a whole. This is the anniversary of Pokemon Black and White coming out in Japan, which is pretty cool. So I just love these games, and it's just awesome to be able to share them with you guys every week. So yeah, overall, that's pretty much about it. Check out my other content if you want. Occasionally I'll stream and stuff. Me and D1 just recently did a stream where we played Hydreigon, and that was really fun to do together. So yeah, go check that out if you're interested. So anyway, let's make our way through the rest of this gym and face off with Skyla.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
After beating up Cheren at the foot of Twist Mountain, we see Alder's wonderful bionic legs and get the HM for Surf before we head inside. I'm actually going to pick up a couple of optional trainers along the way, like the Excadrill guy that guards the PP up, and I'm also going to heal up after the Doctor. Other than that, not really too big of a deal. And then we're going to pop out the other side at Icarus City. As we make our way through the gym, Slash is actually going to come in handy for the Cryogonals because they have very good special defense, but pitifully weak physical defense. So that's mostly why I wanted Slash, just for these guys. So after all of that, let's go ahead and face off Ice versus Ice with Bryson. Alright, let's do this, Bryson. So we do still have Ancient Power, pretty much only for this fight. Vanillish does hang on, but it's not really that big of a deal. Drops on the following turn. Beartic comes out. We can't quite one-shot it. It swaggers, but that's why we got the Person Berry. Let's go. And Slash onto the Cryogonal. Like we've said, pitiful physical defense. Bryson, you are still an absolute joke. Moving on. And as we make our way through, it is time for story time. So, as I touched on in the past, my archive channel actually used to be a channel that I had called Hydreigon Master 635. Yeah, cringe, I know. It was where I did a lot of battling for Pokemon Black and White. So, yeah, it was when I started, doing YouTube and stuff like that. It's a very old channel. So yeah, all of my old battles are pretty much for the most part up on there. I did so many, and even whenever a ROM hack called Pokemon Blaze Black came out, shoutouts to Drayano. He is of course the godfather of ROM hacking, more or less. A great ROM hack, by the way. If you have not played Pokemon Blaze Black, it is still one of my favorites. I even started doing competitive battles in that. We kind of like, more or less made our own little, tier structure with, ROM hack Pokemon, which was really fun and stuff like that. So, but yeah, so for competitive Pokemon though, I've never really been a huge fan of, I like singles. Let's start there. I like singles, so I kind of lean more towards, the Smogon side of competitive battling as opposed to VGC. And I've never been a huge fan of OU, like overuse. This is kind of like the overall, tier of the best Pokemon. I ended up really settling into underused, which is, the tier right below, and it was really fun. I really enjoyed underused. It kind of became my one thing. Back when, I was younger and I had way more time on my hands, I actually was really big into showdown laddering, and for a while there, I was actually really top of the UU leaderboards. So I pretty much held like one of the top spots for roughly about a 6 months straight, and that was pretty cool. So yeah, I know it's not really too interesting, but like yeah, that's kind of like a little story about my competitive Pokemon history. It all started with Pokemon Black and White, and I really like that. So yeah, I know this one was probably kind of boring, but yeah, let me know down below. Do you guys like playing competitive Pokemon as well? Do you lean more on the VGC side of things? Do you lean more onto the single side of things with Smogon and stuff like that? I'm curious to know. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So anyway, let's go ahead and wrap up story time here. We're gonna fly on back to Nimbasa, and I'm gonna stop by Anvil Town to grab a rare candy before we make our way into the desert. Nothing really interesting in the desert, but I am gonna grab a Shadow Ball on my way through the gauntlet. That's gonna be pretty nice, and then we could just pick up a rare candy on our way out and meet up with everybody at Nacrene. At Nacrene, we're going to meet up with everybody and get a funny looking rock before we're set free. I'm going to stop by the Pinwheel Nurse just to top off, so that's usually what I do. Sometimes I forget though, and then head out towards Route 8. Of course, we're playing on winter, so everything's frozen over, but if you follow this little path that I'm showing you right now, it's a very quick and easy way to get through, and then we can face off with Bianca. Alright, Bianca, time for your contractually obligated showing. We got Never Melt Ice Ice Beam, going to easily knock out that Stoutland. Samurott, we don't have anything great to hit it, but we can easily two-shot it with a couple Dragon Breaths, no problem. Simisear, we do have Ancient Power pretty much left over just for you, and we have taught Shadow Ball for the Musharna, so that's going to go down into a single hit. not bad, easy peasy. Moving on, let's go ahead and meet up with Getsus and his ninjas on the bridge before we stop by the shopping mall and grab some calciums. Usually this is a great go-to for the special attackers. We almost always have plenty of money as long as we didn't buy anything else too expensive, and we can top up to 100 special attack EVs because you just don't get a lot of special attack EVs when you're playing this game, so there's that. Let's power our way through the gym, no problems whatsoever. We do get the chance to learn Glaciate, but you know, like I kind of alluded to earlier, at this point in the game, we're not really going to have too much use for it, and we can face off with our final gym leader. Alright, Daddy Drayden time. I'm not going to disrespect you because I like you. So Ice Beam, that's going to go down. Ice Beam onto the Druddigan as well. Haxorus is all that's left, and that's going to drop to easy peasy. Moving on, let's head out towards Route 10. We're going to do a very minimal amount of training, pretty much just Veteran Clara right here, and then we can face off with Cheren. Alright, let's do this, Cheren. So he leads off with Unpheasant. Of course, that's just going to drop to a single Ice Beam, but he does have Embor. However, this Embor does not have any fighting moves. It has leftovers, though, so it does actually live the 2 Dragon Breaths and hits pretty hard with a Blaze-boosted Flamethrower. But, yeah, that's not really too much of a problem. We're just going to easily knock out his last 2 Pokemon, get a nice free heal, and then we're set free to head into Victory Road. Once again, very minimal training needed. We're just going to grab the rare candy across the puddle, and after we beat the doctor, we get a free heal as well as hitting level 53, where it can spend 2 rare candies for level 55 just in time for the league. Grimsley's up first. He leads off with Scrafty. This thing actually has really good special defense, so Ice Beam is actually not enough to one-shot it. It does get just kind of stuck in a healing loop, and I finally freeze something. I believe that was the first freeze in the entire freaking run. That's crazy. So we only have Ice Beam for the Bisharp, but it can't really do too much, so we just 2-shot it with Ice Beam, so that's pretty cool. First member down, nice and easy. Moving on. So Marshall is pretty much the only reason that we needed the calciums, because this is a range to kill the throw. Unfortunately, it looks like I am getting incredibly unlucky, or my math was off, because I actually take the speed drop right here, and because of that, I actually take way too many hits from the sock because now I'm slower than it, and I take a reset, which is really unfortunate. So yeah, so throw comes out again though on the pullback, so I go for an Ancient Power. It lowers my speed, and I'm able to knock him out. Sock comes out. I'm going to go for an Ancient Power. Stone Edge crits me, and there we go. That's going to go down thanks to a Stone Edge dodge. Ice Beam onto Conkeldurr. That's good. 16 HP. Mean Shao can miss, and it misses the Rock Slide, so we rob Marshall of a victory there. Okay, sure. Moving on. I did not deserve that, but we will take it. Caitlin's up third. We have switched over to the Expert Belt, so we're going to go ahead and go for a couple of Shadow Balls into the Reuniclus. That's going to go down. Same with the Sigilif. Musharna is going to come out. It is quite a bit bulkier, so I'm just going to go for that. It does live, just tries to heal, doesn't even look like a range, so I'm going to go for an Ancient Power, and we finally get an Omni Boost. I believe that was the first Omni Boost in the entire run, so that's pretty cool. We actually learned Dragon Pulse as well at level 57, and thanks to that boost, we're actually able to one-shot the Gothitelle as well. Not bad. Moving on, only one member left. Alright, let's do this, Chantal. We have that Expert Belt boosted Shadow Ball for you as well, so that's going to go down to the Cofagrigus. Golurk's going to come out. That's going to drop as well. Chandelure, it actually does barely live, which is kind of crazy. We're going to go for a couple Ancient Powers. Maybe we can get a boost. That might be useful. No luck. We go for another Shadow Ball. That's going to drop. Jellicent comes out. That also lives and curse bodies us, but we just have Ice Beam. We can finish it off at that low health. So get to level 58, and yeah, honestly, the calciums didn't really help that much because it didn't really turn too many of those kind of problematic Pokemon into one-shots, so maybe I just needed to be a higher level. Anyway, let's go ahead and see how Alder's dealing with N. N summons his gigantic castle out of the ground, somehow, and it's up to us to chase him down through it because Alder couldn't manage. So yeah, it's okay though, buddy. We got another legendary dragon, third one in the row this time. It's a little bit weaker, but I think we'll be able to manage. So let's go ahead and spend our last 2 rare candies, get to level 60, and face off with the man himself. We do have to have a full party to deny adding Reshiram to it this time around, so we can lead Zekrom v Kyurem. Ice Beam onto the Zekrom, that's going to drop with that Expert Belt boost. Ice Beam onto the Cling Clang, but that's not a Cling Clang, that's a Zoroark. We can't break through the Sturdy because we don't have that Mold Breaker-like ability, but that's okay. Thanks to our good HP, we're able to tank that Stone Edge and knock him out on a couple of hits. Ice Beam onto the Archeops, we're faster than it, cool. We have Ancient Power just for that Vanillix, that's going to go down. And last but not least is going to be Cling Clang, where we get a critical hit Ice Beam, and that drops. Very nice, you'll love to see it. So N is down, but Ghetsis is going to come in, throw his little tantrum, and it's up to us to take him down. Alright, let's do this. Ghetsis, Copper Greekus, we have that Expert Belt boosted Shadow Ball, so we don't have to deal with any toxic protection shenanigans. Ice Beam for the Hydreigon, that's going to go down as well. Once again, we only have Ice Beam for the Bisharp, so we have to tank a Stone Edge as we 2-shot it. Bouffalant comes out. Head Charge does so much damage, but we're able to knock it out in a couple of hits, so that's not bad. Seismitoad lives and brings us to 14 HP. All that's left is Electros, and it goes down to one more final critical hit. Kyurem was locked in right there. Let's go. So yeah, really sketchy. Kind of got very close there against Ghetsis, but hey, we made it through, and that's pretty cool. So, of course, I do end my timer at the end of N's final dialogue right here. But yeah, this Pokemon obviously was really good. It doesn't need to be a box legendary to be busted. Who would have thought? So, even though it's, you know, like one ever so minor step below that. So, we get a final time of 1 hour, 8 minutes, and 54 seconds with only that one reset to Marshall, which we definitely deserved a couple more of, but, you know, what you gonna do? So, I do still believe that physical attackers are kind of have a major advantage, but as we've seen with Kyurem and Reshiram, if your special attack is just that high, it's really not really gonna matter. There's kind of like a wall right there where, you know, you just kind of have to overcome that. So, however, there are still some incredibly strong physical attackers that can make it up to this S+ tier, so where, of course, Kyurem's going to land. So, let's go ahead, finish up these credits, and see our final time. And there we go. We have a final in-game time of 4 hours flat. Not half bad. Kyurem, this Pokemon was crazy good. But you might have noticed the video's not over. And that's because, if you know anything about Kyurem, it has 2 alternate forms. That's right, we're also going to be running Kyurem-Black and Kyurem-White in this game. So these Pokemon are absolutely absurd. They were introduced in Pokemon Black and White 2, and they were actually very easy for me to backport into this game. So let's go ahead and get into those runs, and we're gonna rank all 3 of them at the end of this video. So I think we're going to kick things off with Pokemon Black with Kyurem-Black. So let's go ahead and break down Kyurem-Black first. So this is an incredibly cool Pokemon, and yeah, 170 base physical attack. This is the highest attacking stat at this point in the series. It's absolutely absurd. We also get a minor buff to our physical defense at 100, and actually lowers special attack at 120. HP, special defense, and speed all remain the same as regular Kyurem, so that's pretty cool. And of course, we keep that Dragon and Ice typing. But because we are a fusion of Kyurem and Zekrom, we have actually adopted the Terravolt ability from Zekrom, so we're actually able to ignore abilities just like Mold Breaker, which is awesome. The level up move pool is exactly the same, except for the inclusion of Fusion Bolt at level 43 and Freeze Shock at level 50. Freeze Shock is a move that is actually in the game. It's not the best move. We can touch on that later, but it is never actually used, but it's still in the game. As for the TM and HM's learn sets, it is exactly the same as Kyurem, so let's go ahead and get into the run. We're not going to break down one by one everything. Of course, this is going to be all a very similar run, so we're going to skip right through the first couple of gyms. No problems with Chili, Lenora, or Berg. Very easy, and we can go straight ahead to Nimbasa because everything is more or less exactly the same. So the first thing of note in Nimbasa, you might think maybe we're going to go grab Return. Well, we're actually not. So all legendary Pokemon, for the most part, will start with 0 happiness, and that means that Return is actually not really that great of an option, unfortunately. So our Return is actually going to be very weak right now as we ride this little wonderful Ferris wheel ride with N. So that's why we're not picking up Return, but Elisa's not really going to be a problem, so we can power right through her. The only difference in the cold storage is we are a physical attacker, so we're going to grab the Protein, and we have the same exact fight with Clay and the same exact Charge Stone, N, and all that fun stuff, and we can head into Mistralton City. The first real diversion comes in the tower here because we're going to grab the TM for Shadow Claw. Of course, we are a physical attacker. This is actually our first major physical move, so that's pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and teach that because we don't need Ancient Power anymore, so that's pretty cool. So after we ring the bell for the second time this video, we're going to fly back to Skyla. Of course, she's not going to be a problem, and then we can head through Twist Mountain. So I'm going to battle the same kind of extra optionals and the doctor, because as we make our way through the gym right here, we're actually going to get to level 43 and learn Fusion Bolt. So we now have a very powerful physical move that we can spam as we face off with Bryson, and this is where we'll really pick up and start changing things. So remember how we couldn't quite one-shot the Vanillic sometimes? We're just going to go for a Fusion Bolt onto that, and that's going to drop. Beartic does still live, and I'm just going to YOLO it, even though I do get swaggered, and that's going to drop. No problem with the Diagonal, even though I do hit myself in Confusion and do so much damage to myself, but Shadow Claw is going to knock that out, so that's pretty sweet. So we're going to make our way through both of the gauntlets. They're all pretty much exactly the same, except we don't pick up Shadow Ball, and I'm actually going to make a slight change here by not grabbing the Desert Rare Candy. Bianca, as we make our way through Route 8, she's going to be completely free, and then we're going to stop by the shopping mall once again. We're going to actually pick up an extra PP up right here because I am going to be using PP ups on Ice Beam, but also on Fusion Bolt, because that is kind of like our go-to physical move right now, as well as picking up some calciums because we're still going to be using our special attack. The gym is, of course, completely free. Drayden is, of course, completely free. We do get the chance to learn Freeze Shock. Now, Freeze Shock is very interesting. This is a charge move, so think of something very similar to like Solar Beam or Razor Wind or something like that, but it's incredibly powerful. 140 base power, but it's not really going to be that great for us because we don't really need that much power, and charge moves are slow, so there is that. So after all of that nonsense, we're going to clear out Cheren, clear out Victory Road, do the same very minimal training, and meet up at the league at level 55. Let's do this. Chantal's up first. I know you're seeing something interesting in the moveset. Don't worry, we'll get to that because we're just going to spam Expert Bell Boosted Shadow Claws and power through her right here. Easy peasy. Chandelure comes out. Thankfully, don't get Flame Body right there. That's pretty cool. Jellicent, I'm just going to go for a Fusion Bolt just to nuke that thing out of existence. Not bad. Caitlin's up next. Let's do this. Second burst, same as the first, we're just going to go for a bunch of Shadow Claws and unlike Kyurem, we have more than enough power to just one-shot everything. Sigilift's gonna go down. Misharna, that lived, not today. And Gothitelle, you don't have the best physical defense compared to your special, so that's gonna go down as well. Moving on. Alright, let's do this, Grimsley, and we finally get to use Fly. This is the first time I've used this on a solo Pokemon. Normally, it's not the best move, because of course it is a charge move, and those are slow like we've talked about, but it is actually very useful right here. I can go for a Rock Smash onto the Bisharp. It does actually live, thanks to that Intimidate from the Crocodile, but that's okay. It's a little bit of a messy fight right here. We probably could have done a little bit better, but it's fine, easy enough. And Liepard is actually going to live as well. Intimidate is definitely really annoying, but it's really cool to see Fly in action. Alright, Marshall is last, and what do you know, we're just gonna click Expert Belt Fly to knock everything out. We can break through Sock Sturdy right there, so that's pretty cool. So why did I say Fly until now and not use it as my flyer throughout the run? Well, one, my muscle memory wouldn't let me, and two, just in general, like, I wanted to keep my moveset less constrained, because of course once you teach an HM, you can't overwrite it, so there's that. So anyway, that's going to be the Elite Four down. Let's go check how Alder's managing with N one more time. For the second time this video, N's gonna summon the gigantic castle out of the ground somehow, and we're going to run our way through it and grab the rare candy. So this is actually going to be the one that I'm grabbing in place of the desert candy, because with the last two that I have, I'm going to get to level 60 just in time to face off with N. Alright, let's do this, and Zekrom is going to come out. We do still have Ice Beam, so that's gonna drop. Kling Klang's going to come out. I'm going to go for a Fusion Bolt, but that's not a Kling Klang once again. Karakasa, we can break through the Sturdy with Fusion Bolt, so no worries there. Same thing with the Archeops, that goes down. Vanillux, I'm going to go for a Fusion Bolt. That actually does live, but it's not really the end of the world. Rock Smash is just going to finish that off. Kling Klang, I'm going to go for a couple of Rock Smashes. I do have to tank a pretty hefty hit from Flash Cannon, but that's easy enough. N is down, and Getsus is going to throw his little tantrum, so it's up to us to take him down for the second time today. Alright, let's do this, Getsus. So I'm holding a Pecha Berry because I can't quite one-shot this thing, but it just goes for Shadow Ball. So, sure, why not? We take those. We don't even have to worry about getting toxic or anything like that. Bisharp, I'm going to kind of, streamline into going for Ice Beam into Rock Smash. Rock Smash would have actually killed it, but that's okay. Bouffalant does also still live, because that thing is just insanely bulky. So, same with the Seismitoad, but we don't have the best move to hit it. Electros is last. That is going to live, but we freeze it, and that, I believe, is the first freeze of that run. So we have 2 freezes in this run so far, which is hilarious. So yeah, this Pokemon also incredibly good. Very interesting, though. There was a lot of very interesting nuance that I didn't really have the time to touch on, but it's very weird that this Pokemon just doesn't actually get a ton of great physical moves until incredibly late. So we get a final time of 1 hour, 8 minutes, and 57 seconds. So, incredibly similar to just base Kyurem. Like, it's only like 3 seconds off. But effectively, this acts as like a better Zekrom. So it kind of suffers from the same kind of problems as Zekrom, where, you know, it doesn't get good physical moves until very late. But, you know, it's able to supplement that pretty well with Ice being a really powerful offensive type compared to Electric, because we're spamming Ice Beams instead of Thunderbolts, and that's just overall better. So let's go ahead, wrap up the credits, because we have one more Pokemon to run today. So yeah, Kyurem-White. This Pokemon is ridiculous, as you see on those stats right there. 170 base special attack. Yeah, this is the highest special attack that you have at this point in the series. We, of course, have 100 special defense and a lower 120 base attack, with HP, defense, and speed all being exactly the same as normal. So we're just flipping the script as you do. Same dragon ice typing, and we have adopted the Turbo Blaze ability from our fusion counterpart Reshiram, which is pretty cool. The level up move pool is exactly the same, except this time we're learning Fusion Flare at level 43 and Ice Burn at level 50. So Ice Burn, just like Freeze Shock, is a charge move. We're not going to worry about that today, even though it is incredibly powerful. Exactly the same HM and TM learn set, so let's go ahead and get into it. We're skipping even more this time around because there is literally nothing interesting to talk about with this Pokemon if you've seen the normal base Kyurem run. The only big differences are we're actually able to get more one-shots, especially in things like the double battles where Kyurem had to go for 2 icy wins. Kyurem-White, it just gets to just one-shot everything because it's just so absurd and broken. So all the way up through Berg, we can actually skip a couple of extra trainers because we need like that maybe one less level than Kyurem would have to get some one-shots, which is pretty cool. And as we make our way all the way through Elisa, all the way through Clay, the first major difference comes up because we don't have to go for Icy Wind into another move on Excadrill because Never Melt Ice Beam with this Pokemon is able just to one-shot it. This Pokemon is ridiculous, so that's awesome. Skyla, Charge Stone, completely free, nothing interesting in the tower. Of course, we don't need Shadow Claw, and we can do the same kind of extra optionals on our way through Twist Mountain, because again, in the gym, we're gonna hit level 43, where we can learn Fusion Flare, where we can make Bryson even more of a joke. You'll love to see it. So Fusion Flare, of course, is going to give us fire coverage. So with fire, dragon, and ice coverage, we can hit like every Pokemon to ever exist. Like there is no problems whatsoever. There is no issues. This Pokemon is absolutely broken with its coverage, and that's just awesome. So we're going to make our way through the gauntlet. Shadow Ball TM, we're going to pick that up, and we're going to skip the Desert Rare Candy, just like we did with Kyurem-Black, but for a different reason this time around, which we'll see later. Of course, Bianca is completely free, and I still am actually going to stop and get Calciums. I don't think I actually needed these, because I didn't get Calciums with Reshiram, and that worked out just fine. And this is basically just an even more broken Reshiram. So yeah, probably a little bit of a waste of time there. So after we burn down the last gym and freeze out Iris, we're going to go ahead and clear out Cheren and do the same kind of minimal training in the Victory Road. Pop out at level 55 just in time for the league. Alright, Grimsley is up first. Hey, remember when we didn't quite one-shot that Scrafty? No problems today. Crocodile's gonna come out. That's going to drop. Bisharp comes out. Hey, we got Fusion Flare for Steel types. Let's go. Liepard, are you gonna waste my time with Fake Out? Yes, you are. That's the only attack I am going to take from you. Easy enough. Moving on. Hey, remember when Base Kyurem had that super scuffed Marshall fight? Yeah, we're just gonna one-shot everything with Never Melt Ice Beams, and we don't even care about Sturdy from Sock, because Turbo Blaze. Yeah, this Pokemon's stupid. So yeah, we take down Marshall, the biggest problem in the base Kyurem run. Moving on. So we switch over to Expert Belt for Caitlyn, pretty much just to conserve PP on Ice Beam. I honestly didn't really need to do this. I probably didn't even need the Expert Belt boost because this Pokemon is ridiculous. But we do learn Dragon Pulse, and now we have the 4 perfect moves for this endgame. Caitlyn down, only 1 left. Chantal is last, and what do you know, we're just going to click some more Expert Belt boosted Shadow Balls. Everything is going to drop. Golurk comes out. That's going to go down. Chandelure, it barely lived. Base Kyurem, not today. Angelicent as well. Nope. One-shots all around. No problems whatsoever. Let's go ahead, see how Alder's managing with N. Alright, I'm getting tired of asking. Seriously, somebody has to know how N summons his castle out of the ground like this. Crazy! So, yeah, we're not even going to stop and grab the rare candy in N's room. Those are the only 2 rare candies that we used in this entire run. We don't even need level 60 like the other Kyurem forms. Let's do this. Alright, let's do this, and Reshiram starts, because we are playing Pokemon White. Dragon Pulse, that's going to go down. Kling Klang, that's a Zoroark. I'm just going to use Fusion Flare anyway. Caracosta, never heard of ya, because I can break through Sturdy. Archeops, that is dead as well. Vanillux, we have fire coverage. That's going to drop. And last but not least is going to be that Kling Klang. That goes down as well. You'll love to see it. N is down. Getis is going to throw one last tantrum today, and we get to just absolutely annihilate him. Alright, let's do this, Getis. So he does have the Cofagrigus. I still have that Expert Belt, so Shadow Ball, that's going to drop. Hydreigon comes out. I'm going to go for Ice Beam. That's going to drop as well. Fusion Flare for that Bisharp. No worries with Steel types with this guy. Bouffalant does actually live into the red, but knocks itself out with a Head Charge. Same thing with the Seismitoad, just barely lives and wastes our time a little bit, but I get a better roll in the following turn. Electros just drops to a single hit. No critical hit or freeze needed here today. There we go. Yeah, that time is ridiculous. Look at that crap. So yeah, this Pokemon is absolutely just crazy. Like, who would have thought that an even better version of Reshiram exists out there? So yeah, and we're going to end our final time here at the end of N's final dialogue with 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 51 seconds. And of course, 0 black and resets, because did you really expect this Pokemon to ever possibly stumble at all? No. This Pokemon is crazy. So yeah, that wraps it up with the Kyurem forms. If you did feel like I kind of skipped through the Kyurem-Black or Kyurem-White forms, the full runs are actually out there on my archive channel. There is a playlist down below linked that will take you to, you know, the playlists for the all the raw gameplay, so you can go watch those out. So let's wrap up the credits here and rank all 3 of these forms. We do see Kyurem-White's final in-game time of an absurd 3 hours and 53 minutes. Yeah, this Pokemon's crazy, and we're going to bring in that tier list where, of course, Kyurem-White is sitting at the very top of S+ tier, 2 minutes faster than Reshiram, which was already absolutely ridiculous. Kyurem base form and Kyurem-Black, very comparable Pokemon, very interesting to see. Are also sitting there in the S+ tier as well, just kind of on the lower end. Kind of crazy that Terrakion's re-rank actually did better than those guys, but that just kind of goes to show the strengths of physical attackers, and you know, I would definitely say that Terrakion has a ton of things going for it as a physical attacker, which is pretty cool. So overall, this definitely seems like the top end of my potential with these Pokemon. They can definitely be improved a little bit, but I honestly don't think that we're going to ever get sub 1 hour unless I make another breakthrough with, you know, making the game run faster and stuff like that. Because even if I incorporate things like the bike and stuff like that, I don't think I'm saving 5 minutes. These Pokemon are already insane, and they're pretty much one-shotting everything throughout the game anyway, so there's not a whole ton of time to be made. But yeah, let me know down below what did you think about this one. This was so much fun to do all 3 of the Kyurem forms. Like I said, this was a really easy backport as well. I pretty much only just ripped the files from Black and White 2 and just put them into Black and White 1. It's not very often you can actually do that, but it works pretty well for sprites, so I'm cool with that. So anyway, that is going to be it for me today, though, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Happy birthday to Pokemon Black and White. I absolutely love these games, and I hope that you you do too. And it's just always been really nice for me to share with you all, the absolute love that I have for these games. So yeah, sorry to get a little sappy at the end in there. This is just awesome. You guys make my day every time you comment on these videos and stuff, and I love making them, even though sometimes I procrastinate too much. So anyway, like, comment, sub, all that fun stuff. I love you all. Deuces.